Hey guys, we are back updating the power rankings for the Amazing Race 36 following episode 6, aka the Mega Leg. And this was a mostly good episode, considering that other Mega Legs have been excuses to spread it out across 2 episodes without having it on a limb. I feel like the fact that they were able to condense it down to 1 episode was pretty good, and I feel like there's some pretty interesting stuff to get into here. But there are 8 teams to talk about, and so wasting more time, let's get right into the video. So starting off at number 8, we have the boots from this week, and here we have Derek and Shalisa, and I feel like this was largely to be expected considering how they have been kind of falling behind in recent weeks, and how they were last place coming into the Mega Leg, and they were pretty much in last the entire time, with really no shot of recovering, where they were very much behind for most of it, especially after they got started with the detour. And again, I feel like considering how much focus was on the front of the pack and the alliance, I feel like Derek and Shalisa were kind of just there, not really having much of a shot to recover, and they're out of the race now, which is why they're here at number 8. And with that, there are 7 teams left in the race to talk about, and as usual, I'll be ranking them based on how likely they think they are to win the race based on their edit and current race position. But at number 7, the team that I believe is the least likely to win from this point on is Yvonne and Melissa. Now, to be fair, I don't think they're the worst team in the world, and I think across his leg they did okay, even though they managed to scrape by with a 6th place finish. However, I feel like compared to even the people in the bottom of the pack, I feel like they've been the least prominent in the edit, and I feel like the show just doesn't really care about them that much. And considering that they aren't doing that well anyway compared to plenty of other teams, it wouldn't shock me if they just scrape on by, not really making too big of a mark until they're eventually taken out. But again, I feel like they're the least likely team to win, which is why they're here at number 7. Now moving on to number 6, and we have a team that's probably a bit worse compared to Yvonne and Melissa, and that is Sunny and Busy. Now again, from a pure race standpoint, I feel like I have more faith in Yvonne and Melissa to do well across the race, but I feel like Sunny and Busy have been a bit more prominent on the show. Now granted, their actual leg here was pretty wonky, where at one point they actually got up to 3rd place by the start of the 2nd roadblock. They did pretty well there, only for them to later fall all the way to 2nd to last by the end of the 2nd detour, which I think was pretty bad there. But again, they managed to scrape on by, and I feel like they're a bit more prominent on the show compared to Yvonne and Melissa. But again, considering their track record, I don't really have a lot of faith in them to win the race by this point, which is why they're here at number 6. Now moving on to number 5, and we have a team that I didn't really know what to do with. I feel like these next couple teams are kind of close together in terms of this power ranking. But number 5, I did decide to go with Angie and Danny. And the reason I did is obviously they are part of this alliance with Raw, Letitia, and Amber and Vinny, and they are shown to be the main navigators for that group, helping them navigate between the tasks. But at the same time, I feel like the show has focused the most on their flaws in the recent episodes, particularly with Danny's tendency to help other teams to a fault on the actual tasks. And I feel like with this tension with him and Angie, like having to step in and telling him to not help other teams, I feel like that could be a worry sign down the road. And even beyond that, I feel like their actual placements across the leg were kind of all over the place. Now, granted, they were in the middle of the pack, largely due to them sticking with Ron, Letitia, and Amber and Vinny, where they came into the leg in 4th place, finished in 5th place, which again, take that with a grain of salt, considering that they were all together for a lot of the leg there. So really the placements don't matter that much. But still, I feel like compared to these other teams, I feel like they're probably the team that I have the least faith in moving forward, which is why I had them here at number 5. Now moving on to number 4, and we have another team within this alliance, and here we have Rod and Letitia. And again, I don't think they're in a terrible spot right now. They're obviously part of this alliance, and they have shown their own across the leg here, where obviously they end up finishing first out of the teams in the alliance, where they came into the leg in 5th place, finished in 3rd. Obviously, take all that with a grain of salt, and even with their 3rd place finish, you can attribute a lot of that due to Rod being able to outrun everyone at the very end. But even beyond that, I feel like they're a team that is mostly good, and I feel like compared to Angie and Danny, I probably have more faith in them as a team, though at the same time, they're still prone to their mistakes, such as getting lost on the way to the last detour in the previous episode. So again, they're not a perfect team, but definitely a team that I think will continue to do well, especially compared to Angie and Danny, which is why they're here at number 4. Now moving on to number 3, and we have the highest ranked team within the alliance, and here we have Amber and Vinny. And I think a lot of it comes down to them coming off as the most well-rounded of the teams in the alliance, where I feel like on any given task, they're probably going to do consistently well. And I feel like they do well enough at navigation to overcome like the advantage that Angie and Danny have over them. And obviously they are part of this alliance. They have been working alongside the teams there. And again, they do pretty well here, coming to the leg in 3rd place, finish in 4th place. Again, solid leg here. I feel like this alliance will continue to play a factor moving forward. But I feel like if I had to pick a team out of this alliance to do well in the future, I think Amber and Vinny are the most well-rounded team based on what we've seen so far. So I think that's a big reason why I had them above the other teams. But if I'm being fair, I do think this alliance has not been propped up to the same extent that we've seen other alliances in the past, particularly the Mine 5 from season 32. I feel like they're probably not being as propped up compared to that alliance, which does make me a bit worried for the teams within it. But I feel like of these teams, I probably have the most faith in Amber and Vinny, which is why they're here at number 3. Now moving on to number 2, and it is the top 2 finishers from this leg. It's just a matter of ordering them. But number 2, we actually have the winners of this leg, and that is Juan and Shane. And straight up, I think Juan and Shane have done pretty well across the season here, where despite them not being part of the alliance, they've done pretty consistently well at most legs. And I feel like the fact that they got a win here is pretty solid. I feel like they've once again been a mostly consistent team across the season. And I feel like considering the edit that they've gotten up to this point, I feel like they are meant to be rooted for more compared to the people in the alliance. So I think that's a big advantage over them. And I feel like considering their performance, I feel like they'll continue to do well across the season. But I still feel like there's a pretty solid number 1 team, which is why I do have them here at number 2. And now, at number 1, the team I believe is the most likely to win the Amazing Race, 36 at this point, is still Ricky and Cesar. Now, granted, Juan and Shane did outclass them across the leg here, where Juan and Shane were able to blow through both of the roadblocks on the first try, while Ricky and Cesar had to struggle a bit more. But even so, they've been shown to be a pretty consistent team. The fact that they've been in the top 2 for pretty much the entire race is pretty insane, especially considering how this season is obviously longer than other seasons. But obviously we'll have to see how they do in the future. But again, just based on their pure race performance, they've been a very solid team. By far the most consistent team across the season, where even Juan and Shane have not been in the top 2 the entire time. Obviously Ricky and Cesar have, and I feel like that's a big reason why I had them this high. Not to mention that they are meant to be this rootable team as well. I think there's a lot to like with Ricky and Cesar, both from a race standpoint, but also from an edit standpoint. And I feel like with other teams not really doing enough to make me overtake them in the power ranking across either perspective, I did decide to leave them here on number 1. And there we go. That'll do it for this week's video. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe. Really helps out with the channel. Now I'll be back again next week to update the power rankings again, so looking forward to that. I'm covering other shows right now, such as Survivor 46, Big Brother Candidate 12, and The Circle Season 6, so you can expect weekly power rankings of those shows. I'm on Patreon, so if you want to consider supporting the channel, you can do so by clicking the link in the description, and you can also join the Discord server by also clicking the link in the description. There's a lot of stuff coming your way, but for now, that is the video. See ya.